greatest tragedy of life is not that people lose their way, but that they forget they once had one. This sacred truth, spoken by Carl Jung, echoes in the deepest chambers of your soul, doesn't it? There was a time, a vibrant, luminous time, when your spirit was a roaring fire. You were not just sharp, you were a blade of light, cutting through illusion. You were not just curious, you were an intrepid explorer of seen and unseen worlds. You were not just brilliant, you were a radiant star, a beacon of unique frequency in a universe of endless possibilities. Your perception was a finely tuned instrument, sensing the subtle harmonies and dissonances that others missed entirely. You saw the truth behind the masks, the unspoken words hanging in the air, the delicate architecture of emotions that bound and separated people. But now, a fog has rolled in. A strange, hollow ache resides where the fire once burned. You feel it, don't you? A profound sense of disconnection, a feeling of being a stranger in your own skin, wandering through a life that looks like yours but feels alien to your core. What happened to that radiant being? Where did your path vanish? If these words stir something deep within you, a flicker of recognition in the quiet darkness, know that you have found a sanctuary here. This is not a mere video. It is a mirror reflecting the journey of the brilliant soul. Your story is sacred, and it is understood here. Let me know in the comments if you feel this resonance, if you feel seen, because you are not, and have never been, alone in this. Your awakening is why we are all here. Carl Jung, a wise guide of the soul's terrain, believed this slow fade is not a personal failure. It is not your fault. It is a profound, often tragic, consequence of what this world, in its current vibration, does to the most gifted and sensitive soul. Society, in its paradoxical nature, first marvels at your light. It praises your unique brilliance, your startling insights, your deep capacity to feel. It celebrates the vibrant colors of your spirit. But then, almost imperceptibly, it begins the process of rewiring. It offers rewards not for your authenticity, but for your conformity. It teaches you that fitting in is safer than standing out. It subtly conditions you to dim your own light, to lower your frequency, to trade your wild, authentic self for a more palatable, predictable version. It rewires you to believe that your survival depends on becoming smaller, quieter, less you. And so, layer by layer, choice by choice, you are slowly encased. Then, one morning, you wake up and the world is muted. You feel profoundly disconnected, not from the world, but from the very person your soul was destined to become. But hear this divine truth. That brilliance, that sacred essence, is not gone. It has not been extinguished. It is merely buried, lying dormant beneath the layers of conditioning and expectation. It is a treasure waiting to be reclaimed. And in this space, we are going to embark on an archaeological dig of the soul. We will uncover 6 hidden chapters of your story, 6 pivotal turning points that explain with divine clarity why your brilliance faded, and more importantly, how you can begin the sacred journey to reclaim it. Each chapter is a map, a guidepost, leading you back to the heart of who you truly are. And once you see them, once you truly understand these moments, you will not just remember the person you were. You will awaken to the magnificent being you were always meant to be. Let us begin this sacred return. You were the observant one, weren't you? The quiet child in the corner of the room, not withdrawn, but deeply immersed. You were a spiritual sponge, absorbing the emotional currents, the unspoken tensions, the subtle energetic shifts that flowed around you. You knew, you always knew. You knew too much, far too soon. You could walk into a room and instantly feel the weight of unspoken grief, the sharp edges of hidden anger, the fragile web of secrets holding a family together. You could feel the truth vibrating behind the empty words, the forced smiles, the hollow laughter. The heavy silence in a home was never empty to you. It was dense with meaning, with stories, with pain that no one else dared to name aloud. The phrase, "I'm fine," was a lie you could feel in your bones, a discordant note in the symphony of truth you perceived. This wasn't just intelligence, it was a profound perceptive gift, an emotional and spiritual attunement that set you apart. Your spirit was an empathic vessel, and because of this divine sensitivity, you learned to anticipate needs before they were ever spoken. You became a master of adaptation, a chameleon of the heart, shape-shifting your energy, your mood, your very being, to soothe the anxieties and please the expectations of those around you. You learned to be the calm in their storm, the light in their darkness, the solution to their problems, often before they even realized they had one. Carl Jung saw this pattern with profound clarity. He believed that the brilliant child's genius is not born of intellect alone, but forged in the fires of adaptation. It is a survival mechanism of the highest order. These children, these exquisitely sensitive souls, sense the emotional climate of their environment with the precision of a psychic barometer. They feel the unspoken rules, the hidden contracts, the emotional debts within their family system, and they instinctively shape themselves to survive it. And so, you learned to please. You learned to perform. You learned that love and approval flowed more easily when you were useful, agreeable, impressive, and, above all, not a burden. But in this process of becoming what others needed, something else began to happen. A quiet, almost unnoticed sacrifice was being made. With every act of perfect attunement to others, a small piece of your own authentic self was set aside. Your own needs, your own desires, your own messy, inconvenient feelings began to shrink, relegated to the background. Your true identity, the raw, untamed essence of your soul, started to blur, merging with the mask of expectations you wore like a suit of spiritual armor. The brilliant child, the one who could sense everything in the world outside, slowly, tragically, began to lose touch with what they actually felt on the inside. And now, as you stand in the quiet of your grown-up life, you feel the echo of that sacrifice. You find yourself grown, accomplished, and yet still unsure of where your true self begins and where the needs and expectations of others end. You don't know what you truly want. You don't know who you truly are. Not because you have failed, but because you became so brilliant, so utterly masterful, at becoming what everyone else wanted and needed you to be. This is the sacred wound that genius often hides behind. You were praised for being gifted, but no one noticed that your gifts were built from the battlefield of survival. Carl Jung warned us with divine urgency. When we live our lives only through the roles that others assign to us, we bury the authentic self in the deep, dark soil of the shadow. We become strangers to ourselves. So if you feel lost now, it's not because you've wandered off your sacred course. It's because you were never truly allowed to chart your own path in the first place. You were too busy, too consumed with walking the path of someone else. And the ultimate tragedy? The world rewarded you for it. The grades, the compliments, the promotions, the achievements, they were all validations of your performance, not your soul. But behind the thunderous applause of the world was a deep and growing emptiness, an unspeakable loneliness, because you knew, on a soul level, that none of it truly felt like yours. You stopped asking yourself, is this what I want? You only ever asked, will this be enough to finally feel safe, to be seen, to be loved? That is the wound the brilliant child carries. A success that feels hollow, a life that looks full but feels like it belongs to someone else. And maybe, just maybe, you're only now just starting to truly feel it, that ache, that quiet, persistent whisper in the back of your soul. It doesn't want more trophies, it doesn't want more applause. It wants truth. So how do you begin to reclaim it? It's not by forcing some grand, dramatic transformation, not by burning it all down in a fit of rebellion, but by listening, by tenderly, compassionately listening to the parts of you that were silenced for being too sensitive, to the divine instincts you buried beneath layers of politeness, to the small, clear voice that asked, long, long ago, what about me? The journey back to yourself begins the moment you stop performing, the moment you stop proving, the moment you realize you don't need to earn your place anymore. You already belong, but not as a version of someone else's dream, as you. And it starts right here, not with becoming someone new, but with remembering who you were before the world told you who you had to be. At some point on your journey, a critical shift occurred. You stopped playing and you started auditioning. Life ceased to be a playground of discovery and became a stage for approval. Every choice transformed into a strategic calculation. Every interaction became a performance. The mask you crafted was one of perfection. You smiled when your soul was exhausted. You nodded in agreement when every fiber of your being wanted to scream in protest. You became the epitome of charming, agreeable, helpful, and competent. You had to. Because these masks, this persona, kept you safe. They were the armor that protected your exquisitely sensitive core from a world you perceived as critical, demanding, and conditionally loving. But what no one ever tells the brilliant child is the devastating spiritual truth of the mask. If you wear it long enough, you forget it's a mask at all. The performance becomes your reality. Carl Jung called this the personath socially acceptable, polished version of you that faces the world. It is a necessary interface, a tool for social navigation, designed to keep you connected and protected. But the danger, the great spiritual pitfall, arises when the persona takes over completely. When it becomes your entire identity, you begin to starve. The soul, your authentic self, does not and cannot survive on applause. It doesn't feed on external validation or societal approval. It needs authenticity. It craves truth. It requires the nourishment of being seen and loved for its totality, not just its polished performance. And this is the sacred crossroads where so many gifted souls get stuck. You look in the mirror and you see the polished version, the one who achieved, who succeeded, who made everyone proud. But behind the eyes, there is a profound numbness, an echo of emptiness. Because even though your life looks good on the outside, you can't truly feel yourself in it. You've spent a lifetime making everyone else comfortable, but you've done it at the terrible cost of your own aliveness. So what do? First, you must notice. You must bring the light of your awareness to this dynamic, not with shame, not with judgment, but with the deepest, most profound compassion for the child who learned to survive this way. You must begin to ask yourself, with tenderness, what parts of me have I locked away because they didn't fit the image? What parts of me did I deem unacceptable? Maybe it was your righteous anger. Maybe it was your beautiful, creative messiness. Maybe it was your profound vulnerability. Maybe it was your divine desire to simply be, without the constant pressure to do or become. These are not flaws. Hear me now. These are not flaws to be corrected. They are sacred fragments of your forgotten wholeness. Carl Jung believed that the path to individuation, the sacred process of becoming a complete, whole self, requires integrating the shadow. And the shadow isn't just our darkness or our bad parts. The shadow is every part of us, light and dark, that we were told wasn't acceptable. It's the wildness, the passion, the sadness, the joy, anything that was deemed too much for the world to handle. So yes, your exhaustion has wisdom. Your confusion has a voice. Your frustration isn't a failure. It's a divine signal from your soul that you are ready to stop pretending, that you are tired of playing a role that earns love instead of just receiving it as your birthright. And this realization, this dawning awareness, can be terrifying, because letting go of the mask can feel like losing everything: your identity, your approval, your safety. But what you're actually letting go of is the illusion that love has to be earned by disappearing. You were never meant to shrink for others. You were divinely designed to expand into yourself. To speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. To say no without the crushing weight of guilt. To stop apologizing for existing differently. Because true connection, the real, deep, soul-level connection we all yearn for, only happens when the mask comes off. That's where your freedom begins. Not in rebellion, but in remembrance. Remembering that you were never broken. You were simply bending to survive. But now it's time to return. To reclaim your softness, your truth, your strange, wild, imperfect, and utterly divine brilliance. Not to become someone new, but to stop being what you're not. And that journey, that sacred return, it continues with the next truth. A truth that no one ever warned the brilliant child about, but one that has silently shaped every decision you've made since. And once you hear it, you won't be able to unsee it. There's a quiet, often forgotten moment in the life of every brilliant child. It's the moment they learn, on a soul-deep level, that they can't truly rely on anyone. That safety is not something to be received, but something to be built single-handedly. Maybe someone you trusted let you down in a way that shattered your innocent heart. Maybe they consistently ignored the profound pain you held in your eyes. Or maybe, and this is often the case, they simply didn't know how to ask, how to see past your capable exterior to the vulnerable soul within. And so, in that silent, defining moment, you began to build a fortress of hyper-independence, brick by brick of self-reliance. You constructed walls around your heart. Silence by silence, you learned to swallow your needs. Practiced smile by practiced smile, you perfected the art of appearing fine. You told yourself, "I'm fine, I've got this," even when you were crumbling inside. Because being strong, being the one who never needs, never asks, never falters, became the only way you knew how to stay untouched, unbothered, and, you believed, unbreakable. But what starts as a strategy for protection eventually becomes a prison. That fortress, designed to keep you safe, also keeps you profoundly alone. Carl Jung once said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power." And hyper-independence, at its core, is the will to power in disguise. It is not strength. It is fear wearing confidence like armor. It is a trauma response. You didn't become self-sufficient because it felt good or empowering. You became that way because asking for help once felt like punishment, because your need was met with shame, because your vulnerability became too expensive a currency to trade. So you learned to survive by being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never breaks, never needs, never asks. But inside that fortress, the brilliant child quietly weeps. Because no one ever offers support to the one who seems to need nothing. And that is the heartbreaking paradox. The more you carry on your own, the more invisible your true pain becomes. You have made it so easy for others to forget you are human too. So how do you come back from this? How do you dismantle a fortress you've spent a lifetime building? You start by recognizing that true independence is only real when it's a conscious choice, not a compulsive trauma response. You must give yourself permission to be human. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to soften. You are allowed to admit, "I don't have it all together." Because healing doesn't come from proving how much you can endure. It comes from finally letting someone see the true weight of what you've been carrying, without the fear of rejection. Jung spoke of individuation, not as isolation, but as integration. A return to a wholeness that includes both your divine strength and your sacred softness. You don't have to be either fragile or invincible. You can be held without being helpless. You can ask for help without being weak. And the truth is, the more you open that fortress door, even just a crack, the more you will realize that true strength isn't doing it all alone. It's knowing when to stop pretending you have to. You were the brilliant child, but now you must become the honest adult. The one who bravely says, "I am tired of proving. I just want to be." And in that raw, terrifying, beautiful honesty, your true healing begins. But there's something else, another layer to this sacred journey. A truth buried even deeper beneath the independence, beneath the image. It's what happens when you finally slow down enough to face the one person you've been avoiding for years, yourself. You learn to shine. You learn to overachieve. You learn to do everything right, to check every box, to exceed every expectation. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught a devastatingly false spiritual equation, that doing enough, being enough, achieving enough, would finally make you feel like enough. That it would fill the void. But it never did it? No matter how many awards you collected, no matter how many compliments you received, no matter how many sleepless nights you spent proving you could do it all, the applause always fades. The praise always quiets. And you are left alone again, in the silent hours of the night, alone with the same haunting question, why do I still feel so empty? Carl Jung warned us of this very thing. He taught that if we ignore our inner world for long enough, if we build our entire lives on the shifting sands of external validation, we become estranged from the self. We confuse success with wholeness. We mistake validation for love. We equate accomplishment with identity. But the soul knows better. Your soul, that eternal, unwavering part of you, knows when it is being used as currency for approval. Your soul knows when you're working yourself into a state of numbness just to outrun a feeling. Because underneath all the doing, all the achieving, is the primal fear that if you stop, you will simply disappear. That without your accomplishments, you are nothing. You see, when the brilliant child grows up, they often become high-functioning adults who feel profoundly hollow on the inside. You keep moving, keep performing, keep chasing goals that were never truly yours to begin with. But none of it fills the silence at 2 a.m. None of it touches the deep, unhealed ache behind your smile. None of it heals the part of you that never got to just be. So how do you break free from this exhausting cycle? First, you must stop performing your life as if it's a stage. You must turn inward and begin asking the real questions. Who am I when no one's watching? Who am I if I'm not achieving? It's not an easy process, because performance feels safer than presence. But presence is where your true self waits. Not polished, not perfect, but real. Jung said that healing begins not when we add more to ourselves, but when we bravely remove what is not us. So you must begin to strip it all back. Peel away the accomplishments, the trophies, the image, and you must sit with what's left. You may feel exposed, raw, uncertain, but you will also feel. And that feeling, that raw, authentic feeling, is the beginning of truth. You don't have to earn your existence. You don't have to dress your wounds in gold stars and accolades. You don't have to hide your loneliness behind a fortress of productivity. You are not broken because you are tired. You are tired because you have been pretending for so long. And now, you are ready to feel real again. Not perfect, not praised, just real. Because the life you are trying to build through performance is already waiting for you in presence. The next chapter, it takes us into the very heart of that presence. Into the moment when you finally stop asking, what do they want me to be? And you start asking, what does my soul remember about me that I have forgotten? And once you hear that answer, nothing will ever feel the same again. There's a moment in every person's life, a turning point often so quiet it goes unnoticed, when the brilliant, vibrant, authentic child disappears, not in body, but in presence, in voice, in aliveness. The adult version still functions, still smiles, still says, I'm fine. But inside, they have gone quiet. Because somewhere along the way, that sensitive, perceptive child learned a painful lesson from the world. This world doesn't want all of me. It only wants the parts that perform, the parts that are pleasing, the parts that are perfect. And so, with a wisdom born of pain, they buried the rest. The messy parts, the loud parts, the vulnerable, the too much, the too sensitive, the too raw parts, all of it was locked away. Not gone, just hidden, waiting. Carl Jung called this the shadow, not as something evil or broken, but as something that has been simply and tragically exiled. Your inner child didn't die, they adapted. In a brilliant act of self-preservation, they split themselves in two, giving the world the polished performance it wanted and hiding the rest of their authentic self in the deep silence of the soul. But the shadow, the exiled self, doesn't stay buried forever. It whispers in your unexplainable overreactions. It screams through your numbing addictions. It shows up in your sabotaged relationships, your crippling fear of intimacy, your compulsive need to control everything and everyone. It's not trying to ruin you, it's trying to return. It's trying to be integrated. Because what you rejected back then, your joy, your softness, your rage, your longings, is exactly what you need to feel whole now. And here is the divine paradox. The more you suppress that forgotten self, the more you try to deny your own shadow, the more fragmented and lost you become. You feel it, don't you? You feel it when you laugh at the wrong time, or when you find yourself flinching at a simple act of kindness. You feel it when you chase a love that hurts or unconsciously avoid a love that could heal. You have become a stranger to yourself, a brilliant, hollow mask built on top of a silenced voice. So how do you bring them back? How do you welcome home the exiled parts of your soul? You stop calling them childish. You stop calling them dramatic. You stop labeling your raw, authentic feelings as weakness. Instead, you sit with them, you listen to them, you grieve with them. You let the tears come without apology. You let the anger speak without fear. You let the innocence, the wonder, the playfulness resurface, not to be judged, but to finally be welcomed home. Jung believed that the path to wholeness is not in escaping the past, but in courageously integrating it. So when that inner child knocks, when they make their presence known through your loneliness, your restlessness, your shame-ridden, shut the door, open it, hold them, tell them, you don't have to perform anymore. Because wholeness isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to hide. You were the brilliant child. Not because you were perfect, but because you were whole. Let that wholeness return. And now, once you've heard that voice again, once the child begins to step back into the light, there is only one step left. It is the final, most crucial part of the journey, learning how to live as your true self in a world that still, and will always, want the performance. It happens slowly at first, this sacred return. You begin saying no, a small, quiet, yet revolutionary act. You start resting without the crushing weight of guilt. You speak, perhaps for the first time, without meticulously adjusting your tone to make everyone else comfortable. And as you do this, you begin to notice something strange, something you haven't felt in a very long time. Peace. A quiet, unfamiliar peace. Not the kind that comes from achieving, but the kind that comes from belonging to yourself. Carl Jung called this individuation the sacred process of becoming who you truly are, not who you were trained to be. It's not an act of rebellion, it's an act of return. You stop asking, what do they want from me? And you start asking, what does my soul need? You stop chasing clarity from others and begin trusting the profound silence inside of you, because that silence, you realize, is not emptiness, it's memory. It remembers your laughter before you learn to censor it. It remembers your dreams before you shrunk them to fit into smaller boxes. It remembers your truth before it became convenient. You have been living outside yourself for so long, chasing, pleasing, proving. But now, standing in your own presence, in your own inner sanctuary, feels like walking into a sacred temple you forgot was yours. And here's what happens next, as you continue on this path. People may leave. Roles you've played for a lifetime may crumble. The life you built on performance may shake to its very foundations. But something else rises in its place. Something rooted, something real. You start doing things not for recognition, but for resonance. You stop hustling for worth and start moving from a place of inherent wholeness. You feel lighter, clearer, less reactive. You speak slower, but your words land deeper. Because when you finally live in alignment, not with expectation, but with essence, everything changes. You lose the false version of you, but you gain yourself. And that self, the true self, is not just healed, it's holy. You are not here to be impressive, you are here to be true. You are not here to stay polished, you are here to be free. So if you have been feeling lost, like you've drifted far from the brilliant child you once were, just know they are still there. Not waiting for applause, just waiting to be seen. And now that you see them, you understand the journey isn't about going back. It's about bringing them forward, into your voice, into your choices, into your presence. And for the first time in a long time, you don't have to perform, you just have to be. Because who you are, beneath the image, beneath the role, was never broken, just buried. And now, finally, you remember. You were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to hold your light. But you do. Hold it, live it, be it. This is the return of the brilliant child, not as a memory, but as the self. And now, your real life begins. And if something in you felt seen today, if you recognized even a small part of your lost self in these words, don't let that go unnoticed. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror, one you might want to return to again. If it resonated, share it with someone else who needs the reminder. And if you're on this journey too, of remembering, of returning, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And when you're ready, subscribe. There's more waiting for you here.